Yo-ho, citizens of Nindie Nation, and thanks for tuning in to the Nindie Nation podcast. I'm Jeff, and it's been a couple weeks since we've had a good old normal episode. And what better way to kick off your week of holiday festivities than with your favorite podcast dedicated to everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. What with the massive Black Friday sale, then the Indie World presentation just last week, our schedule has been a little all over the place recently, and I can't wait to dive into episode 49 with you to talk about all of the great new Nindies dropping this coming week of December 20th through the 26th. Since it's been a couple of weeks since we've covered all of the big new releases, I'll make sure first you know of all of the big titles worth your time since we last talked, and then we'll tackle this coming week. After that, of course, we'll wrap up with the deals, and oh boy, the deals are hot this week as the eShop gets ready to say goodbye to 2019. But games aren't the only new things happening in the nation of Nindie. If you head over to our YouTube channel, you'll see a couple new videos, and a day or two after this episode posts, a video version including footage from all the games we discussed this week. This is a good time to tell you about how we're a part of the Nintendo Village, because not only are they your one-stop shop for all kinds of Nintendo news, reviews, and shows, but because my first written review and video are now live over at the nintendovillage.com and on their YouTube channel, where you can hear me gush about Children of Morta, my 2019 Game of the Year. Oh, I love Children of Morta so much. I'm actually a third of the way through it in the xCloud preview too, so now I'm playing it on multiple platforms, and I can't wait for the new post-game content coming earlier next year, but I am getting ahead of myself. We've got so much to cover this week, and here I am just about to start rambling about Children of Morta. If you want to hear that, head on over to Nintendo Village's YouTube channel or the many links I've shared over on Twitter at Nindie Nation. For now, let's check out some of the key titles released over the last couple of weeks and make sure you're not missing out. Dead End Job released on December 13th for $16.99 by Ant Workshop, and is just the right thing for someone who likes two things: co-op twin-stick shooters and quirky 90s cartoons. Plus, its storyline is remarkably close to Ghostbusters. And if you haven't bought a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up this week, Rake Grass Games launched Jets and Guns, with more ships, enemies, rock music, and explosions than you could ever ask to fit into a $7 Nindie. On December 17th, Sometimes You, often known for releasing cheap ripoffs of popular Nindies, releases what looks like a cheap ripoff of a popular Nindie. But it doesn't look half bad. Rift Keeper for $10 is a lot like Dead Cells. I mean, a lot like Dead Cells. Side-scrolling action roguelike, dark, weapon-based, the whole 9 yards. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued. What do you think? Did I miss anything from the last couple of weeks? Obviously, we have the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove finally getting its last 2 expansions with King of Cards and Showdown. There's also the shadow drops like Dauntless and the Talos Principle, but we've covered all of those recently in the Indie World episode. Let me know if there's been anything else recently that we should be discussing over on Twitter at Nindie Nation. With that out of the way, it's time to dive into the games coming out through the week of Christmas, and I wasn't sure what to expect, but I guess because the Switch is great for when you've got some time off work, and especially for those of you traveling over the holidays, developers and publishers decided to go ahead and release a bunch of games because we've got a whopping 26 games to discuss. Without further ado, let's check out what's coming to the eShop next week. Starting on December 20th, we get Farabelle, a $5 real-time strategy game by Fro Games. The twist with Farabelle is that you start at the end of the game and work backwards, with even your experience causing you to level down your party, which requires you to manage difficulty by considering what stats you can live without versus what you traditionally would need to improve. Developer Robot Gentleman delivers what they call a dark comedy sci-fi adventure in a post-apocalyptic space colony called 60 Parsecs. Ringing the register at $8.49 will plant you firmly within a cartoony space colony where everything's gone wrong and you have to lead your crew in order to survive. Budget publisher Jandusoft is back at it again with this gem of a question for you. Ever wonder what would happen if Kingdom met a broad skill-based open-world RPG? Welcome to Regions of Ruin. And I don't know what they mean by if Kingdom met anything. Who is Kingdom? This uninspiring $10 release is a side-scrolling open-world RPG, which doesn't seem like it makes sense, but that includes town building alongside 2D combat and generally doing all the things you need to do in order to rebuild a kingdom. It doesn't look bad, but I don't know, it doesn't look very good. And to let you in on the secret sauce of Nindie Nation for a second, I usually have about 40 tabs open in my browser as I'm preparing for the show, and I always get a bit of a weird feeling as I'm asked to enter my birth date for the first time, because it usually means I'm about to get grossed out by either gory pixelated horror or underage anime girls. And this week, though, I'm not really sure what's going on because all I see in Sacred Stones is a fairly routine pixelated 2D boss rush. Doesn't look too bad. Now, nothing in this seems too awful, especially with the cute woodland creatures that turn into bosses. Now, I don't even see any blood or violence other than pixelated blocks shooting at other pixelated blocks. So I don't know why I'm being asked to enter my age. What I do see is a wonderful description, though, for Sacred Stones by developer CFK, who I've never heard of, but spoiler alert, we're about to hear a lot more of them. Anyways, here's their description of Sacred Stones. Strap in, because this one's a doozy. Hardcore action platformer game comes on. One day, the Sky Island begins to fall. To prevent falling the Sky Island, the main character goes out looking for the whereabouts of the Sacred Stone. Hardcore bosses are waiting for you, such as flying projectile in unexpected directions, dynamic moving giant boss, and simple and unique background with beautiful retro-style dot graphic. Hidden item and boss. Quick and cheerful action. Supported smooth and natural control. Use the different weapons of performance in the proper way to attack the bosses. Special weapons with different performance. Indeed, is it possible to protect the falling Sky Island during facing the giant monster? Whew. And, well, that can all be yours for $13.49, but, probably don't. Uh-oh. Our next game is another title from CFK. Who is this publisher? Their next title, also for $13.49, oh no, is Princess Maker Go-Go Princess. And it's, looks kind of like a Super Nintendo board game. Oh no, they've done it again. Look at this. All right, let's see what they have to say about the wonderfully titled Princess Maker Go-Go Princess. All of Princess Maker's daughter gathered in one place, fighting in life simulation by using the dice. Rival study, part-time job in love. The tumultuous 8 years will begin on the board. Only the dice knows the destiny. Uzu and Cube the navigator to help your daughter. What the hell does that mean? There will also be a confrontation that can't be backed down for a happy future. What? Support to play with up to 4 players. Princess Maker Go-Go! Princess who will become a princess. Whoa. Alright, don't buy that game. It can only get better from here, right? Surely our next... Oh, the next game is published by Ultimate Games. Okay, it's called Down to Hell. It comes out on December 23rd. It's $10, and it looks like you're a dude with a sword and you fight demons one-on-one, and it looks like a rejected mobile game. Next! Our next release for December 23rd looks fun enough. Take mini golf courses and use mechanics from Marble Madness or Super Monkey Ball, and you've got Crazy Zen Mini Golf. It drops on the eShop by Onteca for only $2, and hey, at least it isn't one of those last 3 games. And now it's time for Dragius's weekly release, and this week it is the $3 overhead pixel puzzle game Mushroom Quest, and it takes me back to a bunch of similar games from the NES. They claim it is very inventive and calming, but then also claim that 7 out of 10 testers couldn't beat half of the levels, which I think that might be a warning sign for the developers, not something to brag about. I like Dragius, I do, but I feel like they have 2 kinds of releases, either the hidden hidden gem that offers a cheap take on an established genre, and then these titles that feel like a developer's first completed game. And that's good that they give developers a chance to actually get a game released, but they're usually, unfortunately, not very good, and Mushroom Quest seems like the latter. Okay, let's get a good game on the list. Come on, eShop. What do we have next? Oh, a rally racing game that looks pretty decent. It's $15, but hey, if you really like rally racing games and you've already played Rush Rally 1 and 2, which are apparently games that exist, then try out Rush Rally 3. I wonder who the Oh no. This game is developed by... This game is developed by a studio called Brown Monster. That's like, I don't know, what happens after you eat at Taco Bell. Yes! Finally! Something you should play, and something I've already played and I've had a blast with. This is a pretty deep cut, but back in the early 90s, there was a third 16-bit console called the TurboGrafx 16, or as it was known in the East, the PC Engine. There were two awesome pinball games on that system called Devil's Crush and Alien Crush. They were much deeper than an average pinball game and featured crazy, dark, gothic themes, but they were really, really good. Still, to this day, some of the best pinball games that exist. Anyways, this week, also on December 23rd, we see the release of Demon's Tilt by Flarb and Winds in War, which I've learned is just one guy. This team that published it and the guy that was responsible for building it has to be one of the original creators of Devil's Crush and Alien Crush. Not only is the name Demon's Tilt extremely close, but the games look like just a modernized take on the originals. Demon's Tilt is available on Xbox Game Pass, which is where I tried it out, and it takes a really deep pinball game and laces in brief mini games of hack and slash action, little shoot 'em up stages, and all kinds of facelifted 16-bit goodness backed by a dope retro soundtrack. The game releases for $18, which is pretty expensive in my opinion for pinball. I mean, there's 3 different tables in it, but still it's, I don't know, it feels like it should be a $12 game or something like that. But there is a bunch of content in there, and while there are other games available, I have to say right now, if you're in the mood for some pinball and you don't mind a bunch of spooky gothic imagery alongside it, you've got to try out Demon's Tilt. And if you've ever wanted to see what a bland isometric sports game would look like with ragdoll physics that are slapped on characters who are single-colored blobs of goo, well, John Doe Soft has you covered with Dream Ball for $5. But I think you can skip that one. Way to kill my buzz, John Doe Soft. The next game is Princess Maker Something Something by CFK, and I'm not doing that again. Also on the 23rd is Warhammer Quest II: The End Times by Perchang and Chilled Mouse. It's a turn-based strategy RPG that plays out like a dungeon crawler and looks perfectly competent, but I can't really tell you much more than that, and I'm fairly certain that if you know all about the Warhammer franchise this game is based on, you probably already know if you're going to shell out $30 on this game or not. Clumsy Rush is a $5 party game by Red Deer Games and is made up of a bunch of mini-games with colorful hippos who do silly things, and there's a lot of rainbows, but it doesn't seem like there's much there besides what looks like just a big mobile port. The Adventures of Elena Temple gets a relaunch this week with its definitive edition by developer and publisher Grim Talon. If you're not familiar with this title, Elena Temple is a series of single-screen puzzle platforming stages that are expertly designed to give you just the right amount of challenge, and each level plays out as if it were played on an old-school piece of hardware. Sometimes the game looks like it's being played on a Game Boy, or even a Game Boy Pocket, or a Game Boy Color. There's lots of different variations. And sometimes it looks like it's being played on an Apple II, a Commodore 64, or even a Game Boy Advance. And it is really quite clever. The new definitive edition adds a few more areas and stages and launches at a 20% discount for $3.99. This game is really good. If you haven't ever tried out The Adventures of Elena Temple and you're into these single screen puzzle games, it really reminds me a lot of maybe like Donkey Kong 94 on the original Game Boy. You gotta try it out. It's only $4 and there's a ton of stuff there. So if you do like it, you're definitely getting your money's worth. And Dragius Games is back with a much cooler looking title, this time with their procedurally generated first-person dungeon crawler, Drongen. Like, I'm drawing the dungeon. A lot of games say they look hand-drawn, but only a few actually do, and this is one of them. With a black and white on notebook paper art style, this game definitely stands out, and I like how they focus on simple objectives in the dungeons with very short gameplay sessions, with the goal of making it an easy to get into on-the-go title. It might be worth checking out for $5. However, another Dragius game releasing this week is probably not worth checking out, and that is Funny Bunny Adventures, also listed for $5 on the 23rd. This one claims to be geared for kids, and I'm sure it is, but it doesn't seem to excuse what looks like another very lazy mobile port of isometric puzzles and some kind of match 3 game. And on Christmas Day, Digerati brings the goods with Xenoraptor for $14.99. With a tagline like Cyber Dragon Bullet Hell, I'm already interested, and with a polished sci-fi aesthetic, this side-scrolling shmup has you up against ridiculous odds, and the only way to turn the tide is to defeat enemies and then steal parts of their ships and weapons to craft onto your own vehicle, which makes options for customization and loadouts nearly endless. And there's a ton there. I think Xenoraptor's going on my wish list this week, but since I usually don't spend a ton of time with bullet hell games, I'll probably wait for the inevitable sale to bring it further under $10. 15 just seems a little high for me. But if you're really into the shmups, this seems like one that might be worth the MSRP for you. And also on Christmas Day, brought to us by Cubic Games, we get Barbarous Tavern of Emir, and I don't know how to pronounce 2 of those 4 words, so please accept my apologies. At $3.99, I wish I could say this looked even remotely decent, because the premise of an adventurer who is forced to stop adventuring so that he can run a bar and raise his surprise teenage daughter sounds fairly clever, but it really just all amounts to a mobile bar-serving tapping game, so that stinks. Another title by Digerati releasing for $11.99 on Christmas Day is Stramium Immortally. Color me intrigued. This neon retro pixels side-scrolling roguelike looks pretty good. It does brag about being, and I quote, butts hard, end quote, difficulty-wise, which I'll admit is an immediate turnoff for me after playing games like Xenon Valkyrie, so I'll probably wait for a sale on this one as well, but looking forward to giving Stramium Immortally a shot. Also on Christmas Day, 8 Ball Pocket is a lifeless billiards pool game for $6 by Super Power Up Games, and I'm not sure what else there is to say about this one. If you recall, 2 really good Digerati games, Omiken and Odalis, were released about 3-4 months ago and were respectful throwbacks to the original Castlevania and Ninja Gaiden games. And I think anyone who liked those 2 original series on the NES, not what they evolved to, but the original takes, should give these 2 games a try. Otherwise, they might not really be for anybody else looking for more. Anyways, Omiken and Odalis are going to be bundled together and sold for $20 starting on Christmas Day. And I say add that one to your wish list, but wait until that price drops to like $8 to $10 or less. They're both really good games, but they're usually on sale individually for just a few bucks a piece. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're on sale this week, so there's a little foreshadowing for you. Rolled, and that's with an apostrophe instead of an E, is a $1.99 mobile port by Forever Entertainment that is a side-scrolling auto runner about controlling the track instead of the person, and it doesn't really look worth exploring further when we've already got stuff like Runner and Ollie Ollie. And then, on December 26th, a pretty unique and fun-looking party game called Akudo Showdown drops by Cubic Games and newcomer Hut 90 for $4, which is half off of its MSRP. Akudo Showdown pits 4 players in an isometric battle arena with all kinds of hazards and weapons to create a fast-paced battle to the death, and I'll say this one looks pretty great if you've got a couch of friends frequently looking for something new to try. And wrapping up what is probably the weakest new release list we've ever covered on Nindie Nation is just the perfect title. I guess it's some kind of actual board game, but anyways, it's called Gunma's Ambition. You and Me Are Gunma, and it just looks awful. I don't know what the hell is going on here, and the description from developer Gmode isn't much help either, but you know what that means. Let's change Japan to Gunma. Everyone Gunma. Let's change all of Japan to Gunma. The definitive edition of the Gunma simulation game. Everyone can play. You become Gunma and collect special products. If you get a special product, you can get Gunma. Next, select the prefecture you want to change to Gunma. Then use Gunma to draw the gacha. The people of the selected prefecture will change to Gunma for the population of the municipalities that came out in gacha. When everyone changes to Gunma, the prefecture changes to Gunma. And that sucker right there will set you back $7. Okay, so if earlier this year we had an indie world hangover, after last week's presentation, what do we have this week? It's like an indie world wake up and your wallet is missing and you're in a weird home you don't recognize next to someone you don't know and your car is parked out front in the flower bed. A couple of these games look decent, like Rift Keeper or Jets and Guns and a couple of others, but they're all in very crowded genres where the top tier titles are currently at an all-time low price because of this end-of-the-year sale. Oh, maybe we should talk about that, huh? There is so much this week. There are over 850 games currently on sale, so I'm only going to call out great games that are at their lowest prices ever, and I haven't already told you to buy a million times. Well, maybe. In fact, we might do a few just by publisher just to speed things along. So here are some of Nindie Nation's picks for indie games on sale this week. All of the Devolver Digital games are on sale. If you're in the mood for Ape Out, Katana Zero, The Messenger, Hotline Miami Collection, Gato Roboto, or Minute, go get them now as they're all at least 33 to 50% off. I just finished Gato Roboto and found an awesome, tight, and short little Metroid game that was a ton of fun. Don't let the black and white color palette steer you away. I'm really glad I jumped on Gato Roboto while it was on sale, and right now it's only $4. All of Supergiant's games like Bastion and Transistor are on sale for $3 and $4 respectively, which is 80% off, and are some of the best story-driven action RPGs available on any platform. Enter the Gungeon, the quintessential roguelike twin-stick shooter, is half off for $8. Ghoul Boy is a cute 2D action platformer, 70% off for $3, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. Chasm, a well-polished Metroidvania that changes up things by trying to add in procedural elements, is currently 50% off for $10, and I've seen a lot of really good reviews about this game, but I haven't yet played much of it myself. Both of the Guacamelee games, 1 and 2, are half off for $7 and $10 respectively, and both are absolute must-buys if you want a hilarious Metroidvania-style game with awesome combat mechanics that constantly make you feel like a badass. Iconoclasts is another Metroidvania game, this one much more colorful and cheerful, that is 50% off for $10 and comes highly, highly recommended. Oh, and remember when I told you to watch that Omikin and Odalis bundle for $20? Well, both games are on sale right now for 66% off and are $3.39 each. And I think they're both worth it, only if you have nostalgia for those original Castlevania and Ninja Gaiden games, but if that's your expectation, I think you'll love Omiken and Odalis. Raging Justice is a side-scrolling brawler that's really fun to play with a couple of friends and has a cool, like, stop-motion claymation kind of art style to it. It's 70% off for $4.49, and that's the lowest price I've ever seen it. One of my favorite RPGs of the last 10 years, Child of Light, is currently 60% off for $7.99. If you've always kind of hung out around JRPGs, but you've never given one a shot for yourself, I think Child of Light is a wonderful first JRPG or first RPG for just about anybody. It's also pretty kid-friendly too. It's something you could play with the family in the room as well. So check it out. Y2K, a postmodern RPG, is definitely much more of a hardcore RPG for people who aren't big fans of RPGs. It's got a lot of vibes like Saturday Morning RPG or Earthbound, and is also currently half off for $10, and that one's fairly new, so go pick it up if you're interested. The original Yooka-Laylee is 66% off for $13.99, and I'm still waiting for a better sale on Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. That's the side-scrolling one that's a lot like a Donkey Kong Country game. It's still within its first couple of months of release, and it's 25% off right now, but I'm still waiting for a little bit better deal before I jump in and recommend that one to you. Velocity 2X, a mix of side-scrolling action and vertically scrolling shoot-'em-up, is 70% off for $5.99, and that is a title that I really think just about anybody could buy and have a great time with. The Swords of Ditto, Mormo's Curse, is a wonderful action RPG roguelike that is charming as heck, and I had a ton of fun with earlier this year, and it is currently 50% off for $7.49. Sparklight, a brand new version of the exact same game, is currently 30% off for $17.49, and I haven't played that yet, but I think that might be the game that I get as a part of this sale, because I'm in the mood for that right now. If you're looking for something to play with up to 7 other friends, you can't beat Rumbo, the side-scrolling race/brawling game that's a ton of fun. It's currently half off, also for $7.49. And Neurovoider, one of my favorite twin-stick shooters on the Switch, is 57% off for $5.99. I mean, really, if there's any indie game you want, buy it this week. There's only a few titles that I didn't see on the list, like Hollow Knight or Time Spinner, so if the game you're looking for isn't marked down at least 30 to 50% this week, I would say wait and buy it later when it does go on sale. Let me know what you're picking up over on Twitter at Nindie Nation. If you've been following me, I've been blasting through a bunch of Nindies in my backlog and sharing a lot of the journey. I've finished Gato Roboto and finally crossed Bloodstained off my list, and I am loving my time with the final Shovel Knight entries. Of course, you know how much I love Children of Morta, which reminds me, if you want to hear more about how much I love Children of Morta, go check out the video and written review over at the Nintendo Village. On the YouTube channel or at thenintendovillage.com, you'll find all of the Nintendo-focused news, reviews, features, and shows you can handle. And as you know, if you're looking for content based on all things independently developed for the Nintendo Switch, you're already in the right place with Nindie Nation. So after this podcast, go take a look at our YouTube channel, where you'll find a few new reviews and feature videos, as well as a video complement to every episode of this podcast, complete with game footage. Next week is a big week, friends. We're going to be at episode 50, and I'm trying to do something special, but honestly, I have no idea if I'll be able to pull it off, so don't consider this a commitment, especially with it also coinciding with the holidays this week, but I will say you can expect some fun new content over on the YouTube channel this week, so stay tuned over there. Thanks for bringing us all the way to 49 episodes. I can't wait to celebrate number 50 with you. Until then, while I don't think there's much new content to play this week, I do know those sales are insane right now, so there's plenty of great Nindies over there on the eShop to keep your Joy-Cons synced.